Welcome, I hope your coffee is warm because today we are looking at the whole story of Magic the Gathering and more specifically the parts that haven't been told. Magic's recent stories have been massive. Gods were dethroned, planes merged, sparks were lost, but many threads were left dangling. There are so many ways the stories of Magic the Gathering could go on, and with just 3 Magic the Gathering themed sets left per year probably, well, there's just too much to be told. Some characters vanished without explanations and some planes changed forever, but we never saw how they were finished. Almost no plane is finished. You can finish them in whatever way you like, and people do this, but it's nice to finally know what will happen. Some of these might be clues for future sets, others might just be flavor that never got the spotlight, but all of them are loose ends, and today we're going to trace each thread and ask, where could this story go next? And I want to start with the plane that started this query for me, because I was mostly wondering about Zhalfir, which was phased out during the Weatherlight Saga and returned only recently during March of the Machine. And then someone commented on the video I made about it, and I just had to look into it again. Maybe we know some new stuff, maybe we have some hints. So right now it occupies the space where New Phyrexia used to be, suggesting that there will be a potential for lingering Phyrexian influence or some strange echoes of the past from there. It might not necessarily mean that there will be new evil coming. Perhaps the moons will influence the Zhalfirians to become a more basic version of themselves, and perhaps that will be a good force for the multiverse. What is interesting as well is that time moved slower in the pocket plane of Zhalfir. So they might be a little bit behind, you would say, but it seems like they actually progressed faster. Perhaps because they were also like-minded in that bubble. But this could also have many cultural or even magical consequences for the world. Zhalfir also inherited the 5 sons of Mirrodin, which will affect their mana. It did so with Phyrexia eventually as well, creating what the Phyrexians actually became. There's also the question about the integration with Mirren survivors and some surviving angels. How are the cultural and religious systems adapting? And Zhalfir always had that guild-like structure, which are now known as the creeds. But what is their status right now? I think this set really needs its own full set to explore these elements in depth. And this also is a point to say that I really don't know what will happen necessarily, but we can just think about the things that will be interesting, and let me know if you have some idea or some more ideas than I have already. Then let's move to some darker planes, Innistrad, because Emrakul right there voluntarily sort of entered Slumber in the Moon, claiming that it is not her time. Then why and when will it be her time? It might not be in our lifetimes because time moves slower for massive tentacle beings. The moon will likely still continue to exert influence on the plane. Perhaps Emrakul was already satisfied with the weirdness on Innistrad and just likes to look. So that could be a thing as well. But Innistrad has more mysteries. The Celestis from the previous sets was built by ancient hedge witches, and it is now maintained by a different group of witches. But why did those old witches build it in the first place, and what was their use for it? It was used to balance the plane's day and night cycle right now, but what it used to be or what it could be in the future is definitely uncertain. So it feels like this could be a plot point in the future of Magic the Gathering. Shadowmoor and Lorwyn are very often discussed, but we have seen it in the Phyrexian invasion where some people on Shadowmoor and Lorwyn work together. So we know that both types of people from both worlds are now mingling, but how are they doing this? Are they coexisting, or are they usually at war? Are the factions now in an uneasy peace? Is it a cold war perhaps? Or is there an actual active conflict? And we also worry or think about how the plane's mechanics will function now that the Great Aurora may be inert. Alara is also interesting because we have seen the shards unified and warped and pulled away from each other, unified again. But what is happening right now that they have been probably together for such a long time? Might there be a way for all of the shards working together more, or are they even more isolated than before? So I'm really curious about the cultural clashes that are happening right there. The aftermath of the rampages there are still left unexplored. Some planes, because there are actually sort of 5 planes on Alara, are just left dangling with half of their heart ripped out of there. Giant dragons were being hunted for blood to recreate Ethereum, for example. How is this not something that will eventually turn in an all-out war? It must, but we're not seeing it, and I just think that is really weird. And there's just such a huge story potential in there for us not to look at it. And Ikoria is such a beautiful world, or it could be, but the stories were just, well, they weren't well received and not even available for everyone. I mean, the Ozolith is a central artifact in the set. It is now broken, but what does this mean for the creatures there? Did they stop evolving, or are they still continuing to do so, maybe even at a faster rate? We don't know. But there must be consequences to things like that happening. Could it mean that there are now new mutations that emerge from its fragments? Perhaps there's a sort of fallout going on there, and it's even wilder than we have seen before. I'm also wondering about the apex monsters, not just about what they do or what their magic powers are for some of them, but they apparently appeared mysteriously and no one has seen them appearing. But it seems in the art like they are forming from beams of light. Possibly it might be that they emerged there from other planes to influence Ikoria, but we don't know. So we're still thinking about this, but it sort of seems like they were coming from portals, perhaps even. We also saw on Ikoria that Narset appeared there, but we really didn't see any story for her, which is really weird, because, well, there could be many reasons for her being there with the Tarkir set coming up. But we're just left to speculate. And we will probably never know, because why would you go back to such a small moment in time? Was she researching combat strategies, or perhaps she was trying to learn about the controlling of mutations after the dragons were already fighting? We don't know. There's also untapped potential in exploring the spirituality and tribal cultures of the humans that are worshipping monsters. We have seen the ones that are fighting, but there are bonders, and perhaps there are multiple types of them. How far do they go? And we are wondering, could there be a deeper link between the crystals and planeswalker magic because of the way that they are linking and warping creatures all over the plane? And we're not even halfway there. We have Zendikar. Nahiri is on there now without her spark, and we have seen how she is now enraged with planeswalkers in general. How will she fare against her friends? Shouldn't we see Nissa and her fighting sometime in the future? Perhaps over Chandra or something like that? Maybe it's weird, but we should see her anger being released in some way, right? But we don't. We just see her shouting at the sky and then never return to her, as if we are sort of insulting Nahiri. Also, I'm wondering about Zendikar itself, where the vampire population was nearly extinct. But perhaps there is now something that remains of their culture, and perhaps they have found a way to revive their people. That's such an interesting thing, but we don't see it again. And now we are coming to some really glaring ones where I think we should see those sets in the near future, but we probably can't. Well, sets will be released soon, but with Bloomburrow, for example, I'm wondering, what is that place beyond the valley? We have heard it mentioned and that it was a more adventurous place. It should be more dangerous to the creatures of Bloomburrow, but what is there? Will there be new biomes? Will there be hostile factions? Is there something that causes the divide from those lands and makes people not want to go there? How do the animal folk societies view the greater world beyond their borders? What do they think about it, and what happens when they enter there? Perhaps we might be introduced to a larger threat there that might impact multiple planes. Perhaps the valley will be a last refuge for all of those planes to return to. And Strixhaven is exactly like that, where we have seen so many hints of ancient history beneath and around the university, especially tied to the archaics, but well, we don't even know who they are. We don't even know what they are, but they have such interesting abilities lore-wise that we should be looking at those many-armed people, giants. Why aren't we? And with the ancient history, it feels like they were foreshadowing a whole set about a prequel of Strixhaven, the Strixhaven story. But what is there to be putting a prequel on? Well, we have the Auric, who were briefly featured, but I feel like they were just there for the Marvel End cinematic. They were led by a single demon right there, which suggests to me that there are more demons, as this one was pretty bland in its mechanics. And the ideology of the Auric so much opposes institutional magic that perhaps they will have a civil war on Arcavios. Perhaps that will be one of the links that will link Strixhaven to its past, so that we could have a flashback heavy set. Kamigawa, I would say, we had so many beautiful books there, but the spirit realm in the latest sets remains underexplored. In the previous books we at least saw some of the kami and more of their powers and them helping the people, and this was such an interesting part about the story, and now they are just spirits that help you wash your dishes or something. We had the Knight's Reach, a black-aligned kami of shadows and secrets, which was just so dark. She could manipulate the cold and stuff like that. They were many-faceted beings of nature, and right now we aren't seeing any of it. I am really wondering what the spirit realm is like right now with all of the technology entering their plane. Perhaps it is changing just like the real world is. And with this one we are halfway there, but Amonkhet is just... there's a lot to say. So rebuilding is underway. The rebuilding is led by Samut and Hazaret, who are trying to reclaim civilization in the city they once knew, which is weird because the red and red-green, perhaps white, people are trying to build a civilization now. That shouldn't be happening, but they are on Amonkhet. So what will that look like? We also got two new gods, Kethramos and Sepsunen, which were revealed as two colored gods all of a sudden. So possibly they are heralding a new full pantheon to be rebuilt after the ones before have died. They were built after previous gods and the river. So perhaps there are multiple things that could be turned into gods. Let me know which ones you would love to see, because there are many options. Hints also suggest that there will be 8 more jewel-colored gods, perhaps, that will return on an ancient pre-Bolas theology. But we also have a pre-Bolas theology, the Chitin Court, the insectoid gods that were used by Nicobolas to sort of destroy and challenge the gods, and perhaps also the new gods. So there will be a cultural clash between the old survivors and the newly emerging divine figures that offers a very rich story to still be looked at. So I think we should return lore-wise to Amonkhet. And also I'm wondering, now that they have the Ether Spark, what will they actually do with it? I mean, we have tried a whole set of getting it, so now we should do something with it, right? And Ixalan, that's such a deep one. It has so much history coming from Azor influencing it forever, and it being a sort of placeholder prison plane, and then it evolved into so much more than that. We have Eklazotz, the bad god, who is manipulating events from the shadows right now, but what is his endgame? Does he intend to challenge existing gods, or will he become a multiversal threat perhaps, just like so many other beings are set up to be? We also had the other revealed gods like Ojer Oxenil, who are now aware of the surface, which perhaps they were, but Now they definitely are. So how does this impact their roles? Perhaps they are expanding on their worshippers, but what do upper world worshippers of the gods underneath the earth look like? We don't know. But there could be so much. And we had the whole Myco Tyrant thing, who was unleashed and is now regaining its strength. But what will happen if it regoes its fungal empire? It could perhaps cover everything because of the strength of fungi. And speaking of underworlds, Theros, with the gods of Theros now dormant after the Phyrexian invasion, there must be some sort of power vacuum. We have seen most gods should be dead after the Phyrexian invasion, but we actually don't know that for certain either. And people are turning to other people and other figures. We have seen them build statues to Elspeth. We have seen them build statues to Gideon. So who will they worship enough to turn into a new god? Do they have to be dead? We don't necessarily know. But also perhaps we are seeing a chance to have some old people return, which would be cool. Also, Elspeth being worshipped, perhaps it will just strengthen her into being a godly human angel, perhaps. And what happens to the next realm after the beliefs have been so much ripped apart now for the mortals? Perhaps there will be new spots for other types of gods that are of other colors, or we could have anything. The world would change after the invasion for Theros. And this one changed a lot too. New Capenna. The 5 families now have lost their source of halo, which were driving their power structures, and they should now be reforming because the return of the angels, which definitely should upset the balance. Will they restore order, or will they cause a sort of coup, or will there be a next demon angel war? And what are the ramifications, the impacts of discovering that Capenna was built atop that demon angel war? There should be many truths now known to people, and that should change people. The plane also remains highly isolated, so could outside influences now be destabilizing Capenna's society? Of course from other planes, but we also had the sort of undercity of Capenna, where there were some critters there, so maybe now they are coming up as well. Then we have a real box of Pandora, which is Duskmourn. In many ways it's a box of Pandora, because, well, wizards can't close this box, but there will be many people asking, well, what's happening here with it? So Felgavoth is now a psychic terror whose realm, the manor, feeds on fear and memory, but what are his limits? Is he now influencing the outside because he has his hands on a planeswalker already, or does he need some other tool to be able to free himself? His ability to trap entire souls and manipulate timelines suggests that he might reach into other planes too, perhaps other times of those planes. So if he gets out, there isn't much people can do. I mean, there's fear everywhere for him to feed on. And we are also wondering whether it's already eating at other worlds because of the doors sometimes opening. So there should be another interplanetary threat. Then sort of a plane, the meditation realm, where there was just so much. The meditation realm, we have seen Nicobolas and Jugen fighting, and Nicobolas escaped. Nicobolas' essence had forgotten everything he was about, but he was beginning to remember everything that he was about, and he seemed to be still mischievous, even if at first he was a little bit just curious. But while Jugen is still trying to chase Nicobolas, he should be sort of free, so we could be seeing him return all the way from the meditation realm. So perhaps there's no way to defeat him. And if Nicobolas is back, well, we know that there could be a massive story about that. But there was more that was happening in the meditation realm, because Jace and Fresca were there, where Jace tried to reassemble himself, for one, but also tried to collapse and reset the multiversal connections all around. He tried to reshape the multiverse, which was a big thing, and he failed at doing it. But perhaps he did manage to change a bit. So what did Jace change? That could also be a plot point. And Fresca's fate remains uncertain in it, because she was sort of mad at him, but will she stay with him? Will she have to save him? Something like that. There will be something there. I know it, but what is it? I mean, it's a big one, but it's still a very big loose end. One that they are sort of forgetting about, it seems, is the Raven Man. And I know people haven't forgotten about it. So Liliana is still being influenced by it, but we really haven't seen how she was still influenced by the Raven Man. Perhaps she's just silently getting crazier and crazier. I mean, she's being influenced by a very powerful necromancer. So there should be something happening to her. I mean, he is trying to manipulate Liliana into perhaps becoming his vessel or something like this. But what would that mean? Because Liliana is already strong, and having 2 necromancers in one body would be a very weird moment. It's sort of like Innistrad on steroids at that point. We're also still wondering if the Raven Man itself is real, or if it's just a psychic imprint, or perhaps it's the whole manifestation of Liliana's own doubt, or perhaps it is actually Limdul influencing her from the sidelines. The also question is, perhaps there is a potential for a long-term corruption arc, or perhaps she will be just a good person, which would kind of suck at this point. We also saw Alice Ilkor appear briefly in the same story with the Raven Man, but she remains very enigmatic. She was Phyrexian, so why was she there? We didn't really see her do anything that really mattered except for maybe fighting a bit, but she should be doing something, right? Because it was a weird placed legendary there. And then I have one that I thought I was forgetting, and perhaps I remembered it wrong, but I think Kasmina was building a secret order on Strixhaven, and she was secretly recruiting planeswalkers to sort of defend the multiverse from something. But now, why would she need planeswalkers? And have they all lost their sparks right now? Did she have to call half of them and did we not even see? Wouldn't that be really weird? Also, Wizards said that they would only be printing 1 planeswalker per set, which they are already going over that rule, but Kasmina wouldn't fit in there with her band of merry planeswalkers. So what is happening? Will she just be operating behind the scenes and will we not even see them? Perhaps like a sort of spark-based Illuminati? Or could she tie into other secret factions or planeswalker societies and perhaps get to the forefront anyways? And then Elspeth is a whole big thing because she has turned into the hero of the multiverse and she has become an angel, but she still has Calyx, a living enchantment from Theros, going after her, but he never even found her. So how will he have any chance of defeating her now that his god is apparently Phyrexianized and dead? And Elspeth has become an angel. Will they just never fight? Because that would be really, really weird. Because then his whole existence was all for nothing. Perhaps we will see him deal with the existential dread of being not useful at all while being built as a tool of destiny. So now he is not fulfilling his own destiny. So now what happens? I don't know. But I'm hoping we get a redemption arc or something. Perhaps he gets the chance to fight her anyways. But also Elspeth became an angel because she had a vision of Sarah. So does that suggest that Sarah is now back? Or perhaps she's influencing things across planes because of her essence was still around? Something like that. I mean, Nicol Bolas did it, so she could. And then I have one more girl that I really am interested about. Grist, the hive mind insect entity that became a planeswalker, likely by consuming another planeswalker, who can mentally control insects instantly on any plane that she enters, which means that she will instantly dominate that plane because of the strength of insects on any world probably. But she is not inherently evil yet, but could potentially be catastrophic if she is provoked as a force of nature. She could be a sort of wildcard force for good, evil, or anything that we are thinking about. But she could also just be a really fun multiverse-wide threat similar to the Slivers, perhaps. Because she is influencing the insects in different ways to evolve in different ways and seems like the same. Perhaps the Slivers will return and then we will have Grist fight them as our only opportunity for saving the multiverse. That would be cool. But let me know about what you hope for the future of Magic the Gathering. Maybe you might have given it up. But I would love to hear anyways what your hope is. And perhaps we will see it sometime in the future if enough people ask for it or talk about it. So with that, I would like to thank you for watching, and I wish you a very nice day. Bye.